Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Pooja. I'm the founder of Devie. Devie is a digital coach that supports parents with understanding and managing their children's behavior and supporting their social and emotional development in the process. We have a free app and a program on our website that I encourage all of you to check out, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to hear from Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen holds a master's of arts degree in counseling psychology, a bachelor of arts in human communication, and is a licensed marriage and family therapist in California. She's a Gottman certified therapist. Her clinical experience includes work in educational settings, nonprofit mental health agencies as a school social worker, and in private practice since 2008. She is a prepare and enrich facilitator and has specialized training in emotional freedom technique, couples relationships, family systems, child trauma, and attention and behavioral issues with children. Mary Ellen writes, speaks, and provides trainings regularly to school and parent groups and community-based nonprofits on parenting and child development topics. So exciting, Magdalena, since it seems like that would be relevant. And she provides parent coaching and workshops through her organization called Messy Parenting, Progress Not Perfection. We're so excited to have Mary Ellen here, and today she'll be speaking specifically about the partner relationship. And I'll let you take it from here, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, great. If anyone feels comfortable who's on the call, you can unmute and show your video if you'd like. I'd like to know the ages of children that you are parenting and if you're co-parenting. We're a smaller group today, so if you feel like you feel comfortable doing that, and if you don't, that's okay too. Any takers? We did got Magdalena as a taker.
Well, I disappeared because, well, I don't feel like I'm in the best, no appearance. I'm just kidding. So I already actually made a wee introduction. So I'm a mom of two kids, and they are 6 and 11. So they're quite well, not such a babies anymore, maybe like that. But I also work at Homestart Edinburgh West Southwest, and I'm there. My role is parenting coordinator. So I'm helping families with little ones, with babies, toddlers, preschoolers, to overcome issues and sometimes difficult situations. And actually, I'm looking forward to hear what Maria Ellen is going to say, because it sounds really exciting, especially that you cannot find much of really good tips about that part. So I'm looking forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Anyone else takers? And it's totally fine if not. Maybe you're eating dinner or preparing your little ones for bed. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Thank you, Magdalena, for being brave and doing that. Let's see if I can pull this up. Okay, I think we'll go for that. Right. Pooja, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, everybody can see that. Now, if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to drop that into the box. Let me see, I can't. Oh, it's loading. Sorry about that. Let's see, couldn't see it. There we go. Let me try that one more time. I'm just going to share it off of Google Chrome, I think, Pooja, after all that. All right, let's see if this works. All right. All right. See, I share it off of Chrome. Let's see if this works. Good, we're in luck. All right, so as Pooja said, I'm Mary Ellen Mullen. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, just a little bit north of the Golden Gate Bridge, but I lived and still practice in San Francisco when it's not a pandemic. I'm a bringing baby home educator, as well as a certified Gottman couples therapist. The Gottman Institute is well known in the United States for having done over 40 years of longitudinal research on what makes coupled relationships work. They studied marriages specifically for a long time, where they had couples travel to their institute in Seattle, Washington, and they video recorded them. They had lots of psychologists code their behavior, observe, to really understand what makes couplehood last and what happens to the couples that don't make it through time. And through their research, they were approached by a hospital a while back in Washington to say, do you have any information on what happens to those couples that have babies? Because what we're seeing is that over time, as we're tracking them, they're not always staying together and we're not sure why. So the Gottmans looked at all their research and they said, well, wow, we actually do have data on this, and compiled the data. And then with this hospital in Washington and this research study, they compiled a 3-year-long research study, and they delivered an intervention to, I think, about 160 families. And then they tracked them for 3 years. Did this intervention, and they also had a control group, did the intervention work? And did it help the couples move through time together and in a more satisfied way? And the answer was yes. And so they developed that into a program, and they train people worldwide in the Bringing Baby Home program. And I am a certified Bringing Baby Home educator. So a lot of what I'm presenting today is research-based information from them. So let's just talk about where we're going. Right. So, preparing your nest, we're here today to talk about how do you strengthen that partnered relationship you're in, whether you're married or coupled, before and after welcoming a child. And if you have older children, what can you do now? Most couples wait about 7 years before they get support in their relationship when they're together, which is really interesting because by about 7 years, a lot of couples have welcomed at least one child. So what can we do to help those relationships feel more satisfied and happy overall, which in turn really affects, your family system, which is why I talk about preparing your nest and making sure that your nest is, your couplehood really is able to hold a child in it in a family system. So it's just the two of you usually when you start. And then some lucky people get more than one. Most people start with one at a time. All right, so what happens to these couples? Well, what the Gottmans found, and they've been focusing since the early 1990s on this question of like what happens to parents and the transition to parenthood. They studied couples, and what they found is, it's not all bad news. About 33% of couples are able to go through the transition of parenthood and weather it fairly well. And part of this comes from the research around what the Gottmans call the masters and disasters in relationship, that when they studied couples, that there were couples who inherently had the skills to be what we call masters in a relationship, maintain friendship, manage conflict, turn towards each other. And then they had another group, which they called the disasters. And these were the people that they were following through time that were not making it. So what's interesting is that, some people inherently are just going to be able, because of the skills they have going into the relationship, manage this transition. And it's a little startling, but 67% of couples after they have a baby are less satisfied in their relationship. So that is a lot of people, right? So this is what happens to couples. And the other thing that's very interesting in mentioning is that if a woman is having a baby, she will go through what we call a dip in relationship satisfaction within about the first 3 to 6 months of having the baby. So very early on. And if a father is in the couple system or a non-stay-at-home parent, you could say, that person may not have a dip in relationship satisfaction until 8 to 18 months later. So right as mom is coming up or stay-at-home parent is coming up, is like, I'm good, we weathered this transition. Time has passed, and the other parent's saying, but I didn't weather it. So what can we do? What can we do when we become 3? So how do we make the transition? I'm going to go over that. And then talk about 3 critical relationship skills in our Bringing Baby Home workshop, which is, we're doing it right now on Zoom, which is 12 hours of content over 6 weeks. So it's 2 hours each week. We cover this plus a lot more, but today I'm just going to cover 3 critical relationship skills that are really easy to do in your relationship. And, you can actually translate some of these into your relationship with your children as well, your babies and your children. And then touch upon the concept of parenting, will we always agree, right? And what does it mean if we do disagree? All right, so I'm going to play a little video about a concept that Gottmans call love maps. So the Gottmans came up with a model that they call the Sound Relationship House. And it looks a little bit something like this. Okay, it's tiny print because it's not important that you really understand the whole model of the house, except for one thing, which is the bottom of the house where you can see it's called Building Love Maps. Okay, and Building Love Maps is another way of saying, what is your friendship like as a couple? And this is at the bottom of their relationship house because this is the foundation. So let's hear a little bit more about that.
Couples who share mutual respect and enjoy each other's company are more likely to stay together and live happier and healthier lives. If you follow Gottman's 7 principles for making marriage work, you'll be well on your way to improving and strengthening your marriage forever. Principle number 1, enhance your love maps. Happy couples are intimately familiar with each other's worlds. They have a love map in their mind where they store a vast amount of details about their spouse. They know their partner deeply and can easily list his or her current challenges, dreams, friends, beliefs, favorites of all kinds, and childhood experiences. All of us change over time, especially when we experience major life events like having a new baby. When a couple understands each other deeply and has the habit of staying up to date with each other's thoughts and feelings, they're less likely to lose sight of each other as they evolve through the years. From knowledge springs not only love, but the fortitude to weather marital storms.
Okay, so this concept of love maps is really simple. It's that when we get to know somebody else, we ask lots of open-ended questions. Where are you from? What was your family like? And over time, we don't. And so one of the things that you can do is be really intentional about what I call taking the downloads. So now that we all have smartphones and apps, we're really used to like, oh, the app's not working. We better see if we didn't take, an update on the app. And you literally have to do this with your relationship, whether it's your child or it is your partner. And it's taking that time, even if it's 5 minutes a day, to really just saying, tell me something new that happened. How did that call at work go? I want to tell you something about what our baby did. I want to tell you something about something I saw. It can be something very, very small, like you walked past a planter in the spring and you saw some flowers blooming. It's something that is really connected, that your partner then has this new information. If your partner can't answer the question, who is your best friend? Clearly you haven't taken updates for a while. And the Gottmans have a free app in the Apple Store. I'm assuming it's on the other store, the non-Apple store. But I'm going to show you. It's called Card Decks. And if you can see that little tiny heart, double hearts, and you can download it for free. It's a free app. Okay, and they have these love map questions, and I would really encourage you to download this, and you can click on love maps, and they have these prompts, and you can say, will you play my game with me? And ask each other these questions. And some of these prompts are really helpful to actually ask teenagers, adolescents. What's one of your favorite weekend activities? And the answers may surprise you. Maybe, your partner's favorite activity when you were pre-nesting with baby was, I really like to sleep in. And that is not their favorite activity anymore on the weekend. Maybe it's when they get some alone time. That may be their favorite activity. So those love maps are really important to take the updates with each other, knowing each other's worlds. And if you feel like that is something you want to work on, I would really encourage you to use the app and just ask your partner to play the game with you.
Mary Ellen, what was the name of the app again? Someone just asked in the chat.
It's very simple. It's called Card Decks, Gottman Card Decks. So just at the top, it will say Gottman Card Decks, and it's an app with a little it's a red background with a heart, 2 hearts on it.
Got it.
And yeah, you're welcome.
Like a quick question.
Couples who share mutual respect and enjoy each other's company are more likely to stay together.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Is this the sort of thing that you would do like pre-baby, or like when would people have the time? I mean, I guess, yeah, like
Yeah, pre-post baby, you know, when you take the workshop, the Bringing Baby Home workshop, we actually have a physical card deck that you get mailed to you. And I would say do this anytime you feel disconnected. So really trust your feeling. But in the beginning, when you're reconnecting, I would say do it a couple times a week, and then maybe do it once a week. And I think what happens over time is it becomes a habit. And so the more you look at these cards, the more you and you're talking about them with your partner, the more of a communication habit it becomes. And I think that's the biggest, you know, thing is that what happens to couples is they get out of habits. You know, when you're dating and you make time to date, you're in the habit of making space to talk. And when you have babies and young toddlers, you talk about them and how much they poop and burp, and then what preschool you're going to, and then whether or not you got sleep, and what you're buying for, you know, groceries, and what you're making for dinner. I mean, that is the habit, because you're just, so you really have to take the time and make the time. All right, so all right, so this friendship, this idea about being friends with your partner is so incredibly important when welcoming a baby into your life, because you want to have your best friend there with you. And I would even say, if you're not a couple on the webinar today, and let's say you are co-parenting with somebody that you are separated from, or you were never with them, but you have this baby that you're co-parenting together, or you're divorced, it's really important to get to a place where you can be friends in terms of co-parenting. So the friendship, though, of a coupled relationship, you know, friends show their love in times of trouble, not in happiness. If the friendship is strong going into welcoming a baby, you're going to weather this in a much better way. And this is not a new idea. You know, Euripides was saying this. It's not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes an unhappy marriage. Again, this shows up in the research, but not a new idea. Happy marriages, I call couplehoods, in case you didn't do marriage, you did partnership, are really truly based on deep friendships. And this is out of the Godmans Research over time with the masters and the disasters. And, you know, one interesting fact about the study of masters and disasters in relationship is that 31% of your problems are solvable problems in a marriage or a couplehood. That's it. 31%. So what does that mean? It means 69% of your problems fall into something that the Gottman Institute calls perpetual problems. These are problems that are things that you compromise on. And the difference between masters and disasters, like if everybody has the same amount of solvable and unsolvable problems, what's the difference? Just think about that for a minute. What's the difference? One of the big differences is one thing. It's the affect, so the tone of voice, the respect, right? The affect in which you discuss these perpetual problems that keep coming up. So that is one of the biggest things that will also affect your friendship, is how you approach your problems with each other. All right, so we're going to learn a little bit now more about bids and turning towards each other. So we just finished covering what are love maps. Oops, let me go back, play this.
Ever wonder why some couples make it and others don't? Scientist Dr. John Gottman did. He spent 40 years studying thousands of couples to find out exactly what separates the relationship masters from the relationship disasters. Shakespeare compares love to a rose. Gottman uses a different metaphor, an emotional bank account. You know how a regular bank account works, so what's an emotional bank account? It represents the positive and negative balance in your relationship. The best couples maintain a high balance. Couples that break up are often in the red. You make deposits through positive interactions, and you withdraw through negative ones. What does a deposit look like? It's a simple act of showing your partner that you care for and support them. It's as easy as sending your partner a good luck text before a meeting, or cooking them dinner after a long day. And pay attention when your partner shows you their admiration and support. Notice when they're investing in your relationship. A withdrawal is either hurtful behavior toward your partner or ignoring their invitations to connect. But withdrawals and deposits don't have equal weight. In fact, Gottman found it takes 5 positive interactions to make up for 1 negative one. Happy couples maintain at least this 5-to-1 ratio. If you make constant deposits and keep your balance high, you're saving up for a rainy day when you'll need to cash in on that goodwill. Gottman notes that small daily deposits, like asking your partner how their day was, is far more important than the occasional over-the-top romantic gesture. Positivity leads to more positivity. This is not about keeping score. It's about investing in your relationship and your shared emotional bank account, moving from me to we. So keep your balance high by doing nice things every day and recognizing when your partner does them for you. You'll build up that emotional bank account in no time.
So one thing to think about when we talk about, how to make a relationship work, how to be satisfied in your marriage or your couplehood, is that most people don't have good models, right? If in the United States, it's a 50% divorce rate. So you're looking at a lot of young couples now with young children who may not have had a model that lasted. And so it's okay even if you didn't grow up in a divorced family, but that is not the model you want to recreate. And so taking this type of tool to put in your toolbox is really helpful. And I also think it's really helpful to find couples that you see doing this and that you really can see modeling and can even mentor you a little bit, somebody to talk to as a couple or have dinner with once a quarter. I think really helps to just talk about relationship and what you do in the relationship to make it work. And it's really helpful if that couple has children, and they can, really help you and give you hope when you're really exhausted and tired and you're not sure you're going to make it sometimes when you're that exhausted. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So turning towards each other. So what does this look like? Does this look like grand gestures? No, this looks very, very simple. In bringing baby home, we say small things often. It can be something as simple as speaking gently to each other. And this goes really true with parenting, especially parenting babies and young children. Speaking gently goes a long way. Telling your partner when they do something right. Our brains are really hardwired for shortcuts and negativity in some ways. We have to really work at positive thinking. That's why it's a huge industry, in training your brain. So really focusing on strengths. And when I worked in schools, we always started every meeting with what are a child's strengths. So if you think about spending a little bit of time every day on your strengths before you address a challenge, probably the conversation is going to go in a completely different way. So telling your partner when they do something right, like, oh, I thank you so much for loading the dishwasher the way I like it loaded, right? That's nice. Or you did a great job dressing our baby today. Thank you for putting gas in the car so we didn't have to stop this morning. Small things like this. Listening to each other's suggestions. This is also called turning towards each other, taking bids from each other. This builds that emotional bank account. So maybe one partner says to the other, I really think we should clean the garage out. I think our baby is doing something new and different. I'm not sure they slept well. Oh, tell me more about that. I think maybe we should, dim the lights a little bit more, put a noisemaker on for the baby so they sleep better. No problem, let's try it. So we call that accepting influence, listening to each other's suggestions. Calling for a break. If you are what we call flooded, meaning that if you are in a state where you feel really overwhelmed, just taking a break. And that is a way towards turning towards somebody. It's saying, I love you, but this conversation is becoming too much. Can we slow down and take a break? Just like you're learning with Devie, if your toddler is having a tantrum, the best thing you can do is slow your voice and just slow everything down. And that is very soothing for adults as well. We need 20 to 30 minutes for our nervous system to reset if we become what we call physiologically aroused or flooded, if we've had an argument with our partner. So you may be thinking, I don't know, Mary Ellen, my partner and I, we just snap at each other and we're from like 0 to 10 with this new baby. We don't have sleep, we're exhausted, or I'm cranky, I'm pregnant. Whatever it is. But what I would say is, yes, and conflict is normal in relationships. The Gottmans did not find that happy couples don't have conflict. In fact, happy couples have quite a lot of conflict, but it's the way in which they manage their conflict that is the difference. So these small everyday efforts or deposits into your emotional bank account, this is really what makes the extraordinary difference in the quality of the relationship, because you have this buffer when you do have conflict of having this connected friendship relationship. So just to remind you again, that the Godmans Research, 40 years of longitudinal research, and that just means that they followed couples through time, found that the ratio of positive to negative interactions during times of conflict. So this means you're having a fight with someone. So let's say I say something to Pooja and we get into an argument. I have to kind of catch myself and say, you know what, let me say that over again. Do you want a glass of water while we're talking about this? I mean, it's that kind of positivity. Hold on, and then you do something like, well, what are you doing? I'm still making your lunch because I know you have to leave. We can fight about this when you get home, right? It's that kind of thing that you're doing, and you'll do this for your kids. But during times of non-conflict, this has to be 20-1. And if you think about it, you're doing it. If you really stop and think about all those little things that you do for each other, for your children, for your babies, you are usually dumping a lot of positivity into relationships. And, if you're not, if you're sitting there saying, I feel a little guilty, I had an off day with my kid or my partner, don't worry. They did a study on mother-child relationships with infants, and 70% of what we can call like connection in a day, let's say between a mother and a baby, is like not connecting, like somehow they're missing each other, they're missing cues. As long as they have that 30% and these repairs, the attachment is, sound and intact. So it's really important that even if you have conflict and you have an empty emotional bank account, you come back to repair. And I can talk more about conflict and repairing in another workshop. All right, so let's talk about what adult bids look like, okay? What do we do to put into this emotional bank account? And you can easily kind of even think, if you're parenting a little one, oh yeah, my toddler looks for a bid when they come to me and pull on me when I've been looking at my phone a little too long, right? That's a bid for connection. So bids are really important to notice when they're happening. Example of adult bids, do you have a minute? I need your attention. And if somebody says like, no, I don't have a minute, it doesn't feel that good, right? So we want to be taking up bids. Other examples of adult bids are initiating conversation, asking for conversation, setting a date night so that you have an hour of conversation, after your kids go to bed. I know lockdown's been really hard, like when you have time alone, maybe you can get out of the house for a little walk or sit in a backyard or a garden, or just talk after the kids go to bed. It is sharing relief about a situation, like, oh, your meeting's over, how did it go, right? Sharing humor, laughs, jokes, having affection, engaging in sex and intimacy with your partner, making time for that, dreaming with your partner about the future, playing, going up and tickling them or tossing something at them, sharing excitement together. That's an example of a bit. I want to tell you about something that happened. And if your partner matches you, yeah, I want to hear. Feels great, right? If your partner doesn't, feels terrible. Asking for emotional support, right? Sharing, being empathetic, and talking through shared meaning, knowing you have shared meaning in your life, the way you celebrate holidays, the way you celebrate the end of the week, religious, spiritual traditions, all of that. And having goals and purpose. Like, I know I have to work this extra night because we are saving for X, Y, and Z. So let's talk a little bit about building awareness of needs and what happens in mindless moments. These are really important to think about, mindless moments, especially with babies, if they're with you, or toddlers or children. So, a mindless moment is being unaware of the other person's needs or a child's needs. And when you have a mindless moment, it's not intentional, but you've ignored a bid. Okay. So how many times have you looked up and said to, your toddler, like, oh, I didn't realize you wanted my attention. What do you need now? Right. Or it is being maybe preoccupied with something, and you're cooking dinner and you think you heard your partner make a bid, but you're not sure, and you just don't ask, right? You're just moving on, okay? And this happens a lot when people are sleep deprived. Another thing that can happen is that bids can be unclear. So someone's not asking for what they need in a straightforward way, or you're not asking for what you need in a straightforward way. And I love to give the example, like I love my mom, but I remember when my mom said to me, like, do you want bacon or sausage with the eggs? And I said, oh, I guess bacon. She's like, really? You don't want sausage? Oh, well, and I think we have lots of examples of this with partners and friends, of someone saying, what do you want for lunch? And you say vegetarian, and they say, oh, really? I was thinking we could go for noodles. Just a little confused. So it's not always passive aggressive. It's that some people, don't know how to ask for what they need, or culturally, it's not okay to be that direct. But it's important that you are, especially in your family. Bids are very unclear sometimes with toddlers and babies because they can't talk, right? So you have learned to like read all their nonverbals, and sometimes you get it, right. And sometimes you're like, I've changed the diaper, I've changed the clothes, I've changed the blanket, it's not itchy, I have turned the music down, I've turned the music up, and you just gonna want to go crazy because this kid still needs something and you can't figure it out, and they're crying for their bid, or now they're screaming, right? Negative bids. Okay, let's talk about negative bids. Losing your temper, and the best way I can say this is correcting before connecting, right? So it's all those moments where you might say, why did you load the dishwasher that way, right? Instead of connecting and saying, oh, I feel frustrated. It's better if the dishwasher is loaded this way because then these glasses won't break, right? Can we connect before I correct you, right? Connecting is sharing a feeling. I feel frustrated when there's a dent in the car, right? How was your day? Oh, were you busy, preoccupied? Oh, I can see that maybe why you haven't taken the trash out yet. You've been busy. Would you mind taking the trash out now, right? Very different than, oh, you didn't take the trash out again. So negative bids, it's losing your temper, it's getting annoyed, it's correcting before connecting. Okay. Mindful moments. When you have a mindful moment, this is what we're aiming for. You are never going to do this perfectly, but if you can kind of think about this as like your strong average, making conscious, dedicated effort to connect. So kind of think quality over quantity. Okay. And mindful moments are those bids when you accept a bid and connect to a bid that build this emotional bank account. They're intentional and they have purpose. They make the person feel very heard and valued and feel important. And this may seem like a lot to do out of a quick touch or a glance or a sentence, but it's like depositing coins to equal dollars. Okay, so small things often. So you might not think just handing your partner, like this morning, my husband, I could hear him starting on work and I saw his tea was still in the kitchen and it's just bringing it over. I'll grab that for you, right? Very small things, heavy weight, major deposits into your emotional bank account, okay? And then mindful responses just increase what we call the positive perspective in the relationship and through time, which increases your satisfaction as a couple, and it allows you to weather, more difficult times and disconnects with each other, because we will all disconnect from the people that we love at different times. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, will we disagree as parents? I read this great article last week that came out, is it okay to disagree with your parent? So, just to kind of touch upon, if you're fighting, I have a saying that I like to use, respond to the issue, not to the dialogue. And I have an article on this that I wrote on my website. We get caught up a lot in dialogues that are not important. And I got great advice when I was getting married. I said to a couple who'd been married for over 50 years, what's the best advice you could give, And they said, well, you need to ask each other when you find yourself in a fight, like, how important is this in 100 years? How important is this in 100 years? And so I use that a lot. And I'm like, is this important? And sometimes it's important, but most of the time it's not the dialogue that's important. It's a feeling of going back to love maps. I don't feel connected. I don't feel like you know my world. I don't feel like you know why this is important to me. It's, I put out 20 bids to you today and you took 2. And now I'm upset. And so now I'm going to talk about how you didn't load the dishwasher the right way, instead of talking about, I feel really lonely, that you missed the connection. And this is how our children feel. Our children talk about, like, they didn't get the cookie they wanted, and they won't talk about this for an hour and a half after dinner. But they're not really talking about the cookie. Sometimes they are, but most of the time they're just talking about like a need. Like, I feel like I need something to fill something I need. I wanted to feel special today. I wanted to feel loved today. I needed more hugs today. But instead, you just have to like tolerate this talk about the cookie. And then it's our job to emotionally coach them. And I know Pooja's had lots of people talking about this in other workshops, where we have to say, oh, you really wanted the cookie. And then next time, how about, and then you say, we read the book about the Cookie Monster, whatever it is that you're doing, or let's tell a story about the cookie we're going to have tomorrow, and you move through it. And we really have to do the same thing with our partners. We really have to think deeply about, I don't feel connected. I feel like we didn't have time. We missed our date night because we had a kid vomiting, or I didn't feel well, or we didn't get sleep, right? Whatever these real life situations are. So you go back, you can show your partner, if they're not in the call, the love maps, the bids, putting into the emotional bank account. And we call these antecedents. So when you want to change something in your relationship, like change the behavior of decreasing conflict, for example, you can look at the consequences of conflict, which are continuing to feel disconnected, going out with your own friends versus each other, right? Like, there are consequences to these actions. Or you can go back to the antecedent, what comes before the conflict, which are the things I'm teaching you today. Increasing your love maps, using that card deck, taking those emotional bids, making more emotional bids, making more bids into your emotional bank account. And then seeing if that makes a difference. If you can improve the friendship, I guarantee you the conflicts will go down, or they will change in the way that you're talking. So responding to the issue, not to the dialogue. So you're going to disagree. Some of you already know that if you're parents, but it's not so important that you agree on every aspect of parenting. What is important is the way in which you handle these disagreements, including your affect, and how you can understand each other's, what we call subjective reality or point of view. Everybody has a valid subjective reality. That's why people say, oh, we can agree to disagree. What that really means is, if Pooja's in a different location than I am, and her weather is it's sunny, and I'm 2 hours north of her, and I say, well, it's raining, and we could argue about whether it's sunny or raining, but we're both right. Okay, so it's about each understanding and then connecting and empathizing. So it's not about you now. This is the other thing about disagreeing as parents. It is about a child, about another human being. So it's about parenting the child you have, not the child you want. So while you may both feel like it's really important, we're in this preschool with this model, if the temperament of your child does not fit that, and I have helped a lot of parents who've had to transition out because they picked a box, and then their child got to be in the box, and the school said, this is not the right box. And then they have to accept that they're all that work and decision making, they didn't know, oh, this is not what our child needs. So that's why I say compromise to win. In business, I used to be in business a long time ago before I was a therapist. And, the saying was, compromise is a lose-lose. How many people have heard this, right? But in committed relationships, compromise is a win. In family systems, if everybody gets a little piece of the pie, they don't get the whole pie, that's a win, because everybody's got a little something to be happy about. So I thought I would show you this this kind of sweet video about an older child saying, what happens if I disagree with my parents? And I just love this philosophical answer.
We see quite a generation gap between our generation and our parents' generation. And it sometimes so happens that
no, not me. No gap between you and me. I'm much younger than you.
It sometimes so happens that we want something out of our life and they don't necessarily agree with it, and we end up in a conflict. And we sometimes even curb our desires just to see them happy. So how do we deal with that conflict?
See, please sit down. Thank you. This is not a problem with your generation. This is a problem, unfortunately, with every generation. I think it's very silly that every generation has the same problem. If we are in a learning mode, at least we must have a new problem, isn't it? Every generation has the same problem. Though they were also youth just 25, 30 years ago, somehow they suddenly act like they landed, just like as they are today. So, because your parents are not here, I can't talk to them, so we'll talk to you. If you want to craft your life the way you want, and what you want, if it's not in concurrence with your parents or the society in which you live in or the university in which you're studying, it can happen. What you choose may not be in line not only with your parents' choices, may not be in line with your peers' choices, may not be in line with the institution's choices, may not be in line with the society in which you live. So if you want to do your own thing, you must understand there will be a price to pay. Only thing you're complaining about is how to have what I want without paying a price. There is no such life. If you want to do what you want, and if what you want is not in line with the larger interests of what is around you, then they will make you pay a price. If what you want means so much to you, you must pay the price. But if you find the price is too much for what little you want to do, you will step back naturally. It's like going to the market, you know. You went and want to buy a few flowers. That guy says 2,000 bucks for flowers. You say, no, I want flowers. But no, because he's asking too big a price. This is so with every step in our life. When we want to do something, there will be a price attached to it. We must evaluate. Do I want to pay this price? What I want, does it mean so much to me that I'm willing to pay this price? Or I'm not willing to pay this price? This is individual. There is no standard treatment for everybody. This is individual. Some people want it so badly, they're willing to pay any price. For some people, it's a passing interest, so they will drop it and they'll go on. There's nothing wrong with both. Both are fine.
All right. So I love this video because I just think that you have to ask yourself that with your co-parent, like what price do we pay to carry on the disagreement, right? Am I willing to compromise? It's not so important if our baby wears blue pants or pink pants, right? But it's important to me where they go to school, and we need to talk about that. So it's really about, picking and choosing your battles, and also more importantly, understanding what the motivation is there. What is the deeper feeling? And are you able to share it with your partner, your deeper desire, the feeling that you have? And that is much easier to do when you are friends with your partner. So if your partnering relationship needs a little bit of oil on the friendship, a little grease, go ahead and do some of the exercises that we talked about and see what happens out of increasing the positivity in the friendship. So that concludes the talking portion. And now it's time for questions. So you're welcome to unmute yourself. You don't have to hide yourself if you're ready for bed, if you're in another country. But please feel free to ask any questions.
So I have some questions that often come up, which are just like, so one is around particularly like disciplining children and kind of how you come to those decisions, because there's so often, and we hear all the time from parents who say that, I'm trying to do it this way and I communicate it with my partner and they don't follow through, and that sends my child mixed messages, and so on and so on, or like this stereotypical thing of like the like good cop bad cop type thing, and people not loving that dynamic. And so yeah, I guess like, can you elaborate more on agreeing on how you're going to handle those situations?
Yeah, I think what's really important is that you take some time to set aside with the person you're co-parenting with, and you set up regular times to talk about discipline. And that you're not, often what I find, and when I was working in the schools and doing a lot of parent groups with kids with like, definitely more behavioral challenges in what they were dealing with, attention issues, impulse control issues, which lead often to kids getting in trouble for discipline issues, is that most parents are parenting what we call kind of a phrase by the seat of their pants, meaning that they come to parenting after school, work, and then they become parents, and more parents become parents later in life, where they haven't spent time with kids in a long time. They never took a class on parenting or child education. And I don't understand why, as a society, that we have to shame parents who don't have skills, because I don't think that's true. And then in relationships, what we do is we shame each other because we don't like the way it feels about what we're seeing. But if we look at it from a different point of view, and we really take the time, like there's all these free resources with Devie, to sit down and say, what do we like that we're hearing? What do we agree on? What are our deficits? Where are our gaps in understanding how to handle a problem? Because a 2-year-old can make you feel so inferior. But the reality is that 2-year-old feels inferior and will feel inferior for much longer than you understand if you don't handle discipline well. You are always in a place of superiority over your child because of your age and your life on this planet and your experience of life on this planet. And you're bigger and you can be louder in most cases. Not all, some toddlers are very loud. And so it's really important that you say, let's start with a clean slate. You and me, we need to get together. We need to talk. And if our talking isn't going well, we need to get someone else to help us talk and get a coach. There's no reason why anyone should be doing this alone. So I would say get some skills, get some tools in the toolbox. And again, it goes with the adults, connecting before correcting. Why are you disciplining a child if you're not even agreeing about how you're doing it? So also be in observation mode, be curious. How do you talk about this with your partner? I've observed that we both get heated when we're trying to discipline. Why are we expelling so much energy this way? Our child is showing us they need more coaching. So that's the other thing I teach parents, is to get into the mindset that you're a coach and a teacher, that your child is somehow not here on this planet to tell you whether you're a good parent or you're not. That is not their job. Their job is just to let you know, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to manage this emotion. I did handle the emotion when my ice cream fell at the zoo, but I don't know how to handle my emotion when I'm really tired and you just told me I have to go to bed now. And so it's about just looking at it and having a mindset shift, just the way becoming a parent was a total philosophical mindset shift. So that is what I would suggest.
Do you have any resources, including Devie perhaps, but that might actually help with that toolbox? Like, do you have any recommendations like you did with the app?
Yes, I have some tried and trues. First of all, you don't have to do this by yourself, and there's plenty of resources and low to no fee resources. And I'm happy to send you something for the people who are on the call with, like, maybe a little list as well. In terms of what I'm talking about today, I run this workshop called Bringing Baby Home, and we're starting another round on April 24th. It's on Eventbrite, and I can send you the link as well. It's going to be at 8 a.m. in the United States Pacific, which is, I think, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon for UK people, and it'll be about 11 a.m. start for East Coast people. So that's a great research-based 6 weeks, 2 hours a week with your partner. And it's very didactic, meaning you don't participate with the people on the call. You are doing the activities together, and we're teaching, and you turn your screen off and you do these 20 to 30 minute activities, so that by the end of the class, you feel connected to your partner. And over the 6 weeks, you feel like, okay, we have all these tools to welcome this baby, or to get through, we've already welcomed this baby, with each other. I really like a book called Yardsticks by Chip Wood. It is for ages 3 to 17. It is not a book that you read cover to cover. It's a book that you can read like your 3-year-old or 4-year-old. And there are lots of kind of nice bolded lists, like what should we expect, social, emotional, what do we expect with fine motor, gross motor. And then as the child gets to school age, reading, arithmetic, writing, like what are the benchmarks? And so it's a great resource book to just bring with you to your teacher to say, oh, my 4-year-old is still learning these 3-year-old skills, right? Everything's the spectrum, but look, they're already showing a 5-year-old skill. So it's nice because you can flip back and forth. I really, really like a parenting program called 1, 2, 3 Magic by Thomas Phelan. If you are a yeller, if you are an over talker with your 3-year-old already, or your 2-year-old, or your 5-year-old, or your 11-year-old, this is a really great parenting tool. And I would recommend getting the video, I'm not sure you can stream it from the website, but the website is just 123magic parent 123magic.com, and it's Thomas Phelan, Phelan, and he has a video for positive discipline and antecedents, and then also what do you do with the negative behavior. And the reason I like it is he stops parents from yelling into more of a counting behavior, and there's a whole setup process with your child, and he goes through a whole understanding of behavior and how to do it appropriately. What I would say is, if you're getting advice from anybody about parenting and it's not working, kind of one major thing is probably happening, which is it's not being done correctly. And that's only because I remember talking to a parent one day, and they said, no, we do 1, 2, 3 magic. And they said, oh, hold on, I was at a school. That's 1, 2, 3, you're out. No, that's not how it goes. But so you want to look at like how you're implementing if you're having trouble. I also like scripted stories for discipline. Scripted stories comes out of the teaching pyramid model, Vanderbilt University, and there I can send the link. There are tons of free downloads that you can script a story, like Tucker the Turtle takes time to tuck. So I'm really big on preloading these antecedents when you have a behavior you want to change. I love a book by a woman named Marilee Boyack, Boyack. Her book is called, her CD is Teaching Your Kids How to Fly, and her book is The Parenting Breakthrough Plan. And she has a whole philosophy about being a coach and a teacher and scaffolding steps to teach independence, and that promotes self-esteem. And truly it does. The caveat to her book is, I would say she's Mormon. She was a working lawyer, professional mother, raising 4 boys with her partner. And so you just, skip over the parts that you might not philosophically agree with in terms of like religion, but the behavior pieces are exemplary. What she does, where she really believes if your kid can learn how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when they're 3 or 4 by themselves, where you're not, and you got them developmentally appropriate, knife and they can get the bread out themselves, and can they make a meal by the time they're 10 years old? Can they put a dinner together for the family? Kids feel really good about learning adult independent skills. To maybe when they're a teenager, do they know how to pick their clothes out? They know what their style is that they like. To can they fix a bicycle tire on their own? So, and you don't have to be the only person teaching your kids these skills. So you often get kids, when you help them feel independent and you're reinforcing their positive self-esteem, you get discipline to come down. Now, if you have specific discipline areas, I really would look at the Devie Coach with Young Children, because I think you have fabulous resources on here. And then on my website, you can get there by messyparenting.com to my therapy website. I'm a marriage and family therapist, sanfranciscofamilytherapy.com. I have a lot of free downloadable lists and resources for other tools.
Awesome. So I know we have 1 minute left. If there's if anyone else has questions, please put them in the chat, of course. My last thing was just like, if there was one to 3 takeaways from this conversation that you could give to parents who are navigating co-parenting either before or after having a child, what would they be?
Well, one is you need to strengthen your partner relationship. And 2 is the love maps are really important, including what's the love map for your child. Mm-hmm. So one of the problems that a lot of parents have is if one parent is staying home, or if both people are working and have nanny or childcare, they may not always be taking the time to get the love map download of their child during the day. And that can really go a long way in supporting any kind of discipline problem you're having in the evening, if you know more about what happened during the day. And then making sure that you really increase mindful moments and accepting and giving positive bids to each other to fill that family emotional bank account and that emotional bank account between you as a couple. These things, I promise you, will go a long, long way, because we have the research and it's evidence-packed to show that it does. So simple things go a long way.
Awesome. And we have one question.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old toddler, and can we put her in timeout? She's about to be 3 years old in May.
And what's the question?
Can we put a 2-year-old toddler in timeout already? Like,
oh, right.
What's the appropriate time to be able to do that?
Yeah, well, and I would think of it more of like, I like to say calm time, right? So I actually would make, what you want to do in a moment of frustration is calm the situation down. What I don't like about timeout is that you're basically pushing at a 2-year-old who is really needing this attachment relationship to co-regulate with you, meaning they don't know how to manage their emotions. You're pushing them to be isolated, which can over time create more resentment between them and you. But what I would suggest is, like, you have a comfy chair, you say, let's take time to calm, there's a snuggly there. You're not reinforcing bad behavior. Okay, what you're doing is you're connecting, you're calming their nervous system down, you're calming your nervous system down. And then later, very gently, like maybe they hit, maybe they bit. This is what 2-year-olds do, right? You very gently say, Mama likes to be touched like this. And you give a replacement touch that's soft, and you train what to do instead of what happens when you don't do the right thing. There's plenty of time for that later. And life has so many natural consequences. Like, later on, like, the toy goes away, you have to calm down. But when they're 2, you really want to just soothe and calm and connect. And then in that connected, calm moment, you might say something like, it's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to be mean and hit the cat. Let's go play with the cat, right? And so now you're offering a replacement behavior. Is that helpful? It's hard. I'm not saying this is easy to calm yourself when your 2-year-old's throwing a tantrum and you got to make dinner. But the long-term effect of doing this is going to be incredible in your relationship with that child. And really just taking the time in that short term, you're going to have less of a temper tantrum later if you take the time to calm down with your child. They will not escalate as high over time. As soon as they escalate, and you escalate, you give it negative attention, and you've just reinforced, because they don't know the difference. If I go here, I get your attention right away. So they don't differentiate. So that's why you really want to kind of calm down and then go back to the bids of think about what happened before the behavior. Was there a bid? Did I miss a bid? Was my child tired? Were they fatigued? Were they hungry? And then you want to try to work with the antecedent model of prepping something differently to get a different behavioral outcome. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay.
Thanks. So first of all, thank you so much, Mary Ellen. Really, as always, it was so insightful and really, really helpful. And yes, we will definitely appreciate that list of resources, and we'll send it out along with this recording so that people have access to those free resources that you mentioned. And also, if you could share the link to that workshop that's coming up, I'm sure that'll be of interest as well, and we'll share that with the group.
Yes, I would love to do that. Yes, and it was great to have everyone today. If there are any other questions or comments, oh, hi, Katerina from Greece. I'm just reading the notes now. The app card decks, no problem. I totally understand sleeping children. Any other questions or comments? You know how to reach me. I'm on Instagram, Messy Parenting. I can send that to Pooja if you want to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, everything. And please visit my website. I have a lot of free resources.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. It was really great. It was very useful. And I'm going to share with my parents as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Magdalene. I really appreciate it. I hope we see some of your parents at our parenting workshop in April.
Well, I hope so as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.